All right, time to get down to the Mr. GLOAT podcast as we try to get into the first week of May, ladies and gentlemen. What can we say about the first week of May? Well, ladies and gentlemen, not to ignore controversy because I don't want to talk about this type of stuff. We've already heard reports that Francis Ngannou has struck again outside of boxing again. The 38-year-old former UFC heavyweight championship accidentally struck a 17-year-old girl in his country of Cameroon. Even though Ngannou paid the bills and other stuff to save the girl's life, it was not to be. But all in all, at this moment, even though after talking about his 15-month-year-old child, that also, let's not get to that. But sad news there, ladies and gentlemen, which is pretty bad enough. But we also have other reports as Chris Eubank Jr. is also in the dark side as well of boxing. After Conor Ben had a little bit of controversy about the IBO belt not being a major belt, and a YouTuber online already talked about it, even though thinking that, even though the IBO is not a legit belt, even though like how the WBO belt was never major until 2007, yes, that YouTuber's name, I forgot the YouTuber that talked about the IBO belt. He talked about it recently. I forgot that YouTuber's name. OME Boxing, capital letters and commas. Talked about the truth about the IBO world title. And it's a pretty interesting video. It was uploaded a week ago, and I highly recommend that video because the stuff he explained it was a lot more explanatory than how I explained it. Even though I was the first person online that admitted it, that the belt was legit until 2007. And he talked about the other moments of how his father, Chris Eubank Sr., was a WBO world middleweight and super middleweight champion. But also, speaking about the super middleweight, Chris Eubank became the WBO super middleweight belt in a controversy moment, similar just like in 2016, when Chris Eubank Jr. Ended the career of Nick Blackwell, a time when when his friend got taken to the hospital due to treated for bleeding. And even though it brought Eubank back to the top of boxing and it made him champion a year later, the IBO super middleweight title. Similar than Nick Blackwell, because I'm sure so many people haven't heard about the story of how Chris Eubank became the WBO champion back in 1992 or 1991 when he defeated Michael Watson in the first fight to retain his middleweight title. And then after the end of round 11, he threw this crazy uppercut that ended Michael's career. And by round 12, he went through a high comeback win, and Eubank never became the same again. And luckily, Michael Watson can still okay, even though he can't walk as much, but at least his body, considering how he was paralyzed, but he can still talk straight, this or that. And just like Nick Blackwell, and even though both of their boxing careers ended, it's great that they were friends. It was great how they talked about the marathon thing of how Michael Watson did a marathon and made it to the finish line 6 days, almost like how Nick Blackwell did. So even though the Eubank family have been having controversies due to the world titles that they fought, just like how the WBO wasn't a legit belt back in the 90s until 2007, and Eubank Jr. is in the same situation as well with the IBO title. He's a two-time super middleweight and a one-time IBO current middleweight champion. And his win against Conor Ben, ever since they had that horrific head clash in round 9, and how wide scores gave Eubank the win, but he had to go to the hospital for brain damage. So, there's a lot to be explained about that, but I hope he's doing okay. And I wish Chris Eubank Jr. best of luck. I hope he has a chance to become champion. But yet again, there is a lot of interesting stuff here. But it's probably for the best not to disclose of this stuff because at the end of the day, boxing is a dangerous sport. It really is. And even though it's not like how Chris Jr.'s father saved Nick Blackwell when he told him the referee's not going to stop the fight, so he might as well punch him in the body. Like, if you watch that fight, that was a devastating fight. And it was great for Eubank to keep his son together and make sure that Nick Blackwell wasn't going to end his career, which he did, but at least it wasn't similarly bad. But it just goes to show you how dangerous boxing can be in this situation. Now, guys, I can talk about Daniel Dubois shoving Oleksandr Usyk, but I already made a video that was uploaded last Wednesday ago. I talked about it 4 or 5 days ago, around Monday or Sunday. And I'll be honest, I think it was Monday, but it just makes me wonder, is this fight going to be similar? I could see this being a 12-round fight to the decision. But guys, here's the thing. Daniel Dubois has never once in his life ever made it to 12 rounds by decision. Like, guys, if you look at Daniel Dubois, he's ranked number 24 of the greatest boxer right now in pound for pound for all weight classes. And as for Usyk, he's ranked as number 13 of the greatest pound for pound boxer of all time in weight classes, which the other fighters like Terrence Crawford at 3, Junto Nakatani at 4, David Benavidez at 5. And it's weird because Dimitri Bivol is 6 and Artur Beterbiev is 7, and those 3 guys are light heavyweights, and David Benavidez is number 1 in the light heavyweight. I question that. Yeah. Really question that. Oh, and also Canelo Alvarez is number 2 in the world, with Naoya Inoue at number 1. And speaking about that, it's interesting. So the fight's set for July the 19th. Originally, it was July the 12th, but they rescheduled it. And guys, Wembley Stadium has never had a lot of boxing matches in their life, but when you look up information about Wembley Stadium, yes, there's a lot of boxing fights in Wembley, but not in the Wembley Stadium. There's 2 types of Wembleys out there. I love this bubble milk tea. But yeah. But what makes this more controversial, so guys, the IBF already offered Daniel Dubois a 30-day extension to fight Derek Chisora, or they're going to strip the belt. So guys, a couple months ago, the WBO already gave Usyk a 30-day extension, but they decided to call it off just after this fight is over, if they ever give him, if he ever decides to think about fighting Joseph Parker. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense because at this moment, guys, it makes you wonder if... So here's the thing, guys. If Usyk does defeat Daniel Dubois, which is possible, if Dubois still has that mental to make it through, because like I said before, guys, here's the thing. If he beats Daniel Dubois, which he might, and if Dubois wins by 12-round decision, not controversially, but deservingly not controversial, that would be crazy because, like I said before, Daniel Dubois has only gone 10 rounds the distance in one fight by decision in his entire career, and that was a hype job or a journeyman past prime contender jobber Kevin Johnson. He almost went 10 rounds the distance with Jarrell Miller in the final seconds of their 10th and final round knockout, and lost against Joe Joyce in 2020 by early stoppage in the 10th round due to a swelling eye. So yeah, I do question that, but yet again, I don't think it's that bad because but it is bad because if Daniel Dubois can't handle thinking about going 12 rounds the distance, then it's going to be over. And that's why I thought Phil Perkovich was going to defeat Daniel Dubois early in the fight, or later in the fight. But after seeing Daniel Dubois throw those headbutts, swifting and swaying around, beating Phil Perkovich in a cheaty way just to give Eddie Hearn another painful loss out of 5 losses on June the 1st to that Queensberry versus, the Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren thing. Yeah, that did cause a lot of controversy that no one gives a damn about. People aren't questioning the headbutts, but they're questioning the low blow of Dubois and Usyk one fight. That's all in the past. But yeah, it just goes to show you Dubois has been having a lot of controversy. He loses against Joe Joyce. he takes on a couple nobody fighters in 2021, which are fighters like Bogdan Dino back in June of 2021, which was for the WBA interim belt. And then a couple months later, he takes on Joe Casamano, first round knockout. And then in June, a full year later, he takes on Trevor Bryan, easy, clean win. And then he gets knocked out 3 times in the first round by Lorena, breaks his leg, and the referee decided to not stop the fight because they were in the UK and they didn't want to stop the fight because they didn't want to give it to a South African fighter. And they screwed Kevin Lorena up for that. So that was the dumbest title defense I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, thank God Dubois lost against Usyk a year later because of that. Defeats Jarrell Miller deservingly. Controversial win against Phil Pergovich. And then gets an interesting win against Anthony Joshua. Pulls out of the fight if his illness was legit against Joseph Parker. And now he's fighting Usyk. I just don't know how you can say that he deserves to be in the title picture for all of that controversy he's been having since 2020. Doesn't make sense. But here's the thing. It just doesn't make sense. Usyk defeats Dubois, but then he defeats Fury after that, vacates the IBF belt, and that's it, which means I'm thinking to myself that even after he defeated Fury a second time, I'm like, well, they're going to have this fight, so they're not going to strip the IBF belt for long if Usyk does win this fight. We get that horrific moment of Derek Chisora getting an unbelievable win against Joe Joyce last year and gets a good 12-round fight against Otto Wallin in his 49th professional fight. And now he wants to retire for his 50th fight. And I did say this before, Derek Chisora can wait 1 year or something like that, but I guess they just want to give him this 50th fight, and I understand that. So I'm like, if Usyk beats Dubois, what's going to happen? Well, they're going to have to strip one of Usyk's belts. If they're going to strip him of the WBO belt, that means he might keep the IBF belt because he wants to fight Chisora. Why would you want to do that? If he decides to not fight Chisora for the Eliminator, he'll strip the IBF belt away, or they might after the fight, depending on which direction Usyk's going to pick. Is he going to pick IBF or WBO? If he picks the WBO for Parker, he's going to strip the IBF belt and someone's going to fight Chisora for it. If he picks Chisora fight for IBF, the WBO belt will be gone and Joseph Parker might get the belt outside of the ring, not deservingly. Or they might even give him a fight for someone, like he might fight against someone probably in the summer and he's going to win the belt and become a 2-time champion, depending if it's Justice Hooney. So that's what I'm expected from this whole chaos. It just gives me random vibes and it gives me a hard time because I can't get these bubble milks out of this bubble milk tea can. That's how upsetting it is to me because it's a struggle for me to think about this because of this. Barely. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, but what about the WBC or the IBO or the WBA? Well, guys, here's the thing. So, guys, Fabio Wardley was going to have a fight against Jarrell Miller. But just recently, as making this episode right now, which is May the 1st, as I'm recording this, which is going to be around the time as the William Sco and Canelo Alvarez, which I'll get to that in a moment. Well, Jarrell Miller, unfortunately, will not be in June the 7th in the UK because he has a horrific damaged injury, which I won't get to. So that's a no-show. Kubrat Pulev, it is interesting. So, guys, I will say, though, guys, that if Derek Chisora can't get a shot for anything in the IBF, and even though Pulev is past his prime, they can still do a trilogy match for the WBA regular belt. We can have Derek Chisora versus Kubrat Pulev fighting for the WBA. Their third trilogy match. Whoever wins is over, and that's it. And if the match ends in a draw, well, hey, this is what it is. At least Kubrat Pulev can still retain the title, so he won't lose anything, even though it's a draw. Just like John Ruiz versus Evander Holyfield, how that ended abruptly, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, again, you can't argue about that. Oh yeah, and by the way, Martin Bakal will be taking on Efe Ajagba on May the 3rd as well. I don't know if I pointed that out yet. And guys, let's talk about the card for May the 3rd, which is happening recently in Saudi Arabia as I'm making this video. But as I'm doing this right now, we're already 2 days before that. So guys, I do like William Skull a little bit. He is a young dude. Well, when I say young, that is out of the question because he's 32 years old, 5'11.5" tall as an orthodox, while Canelo Alvarez was formerly a 5'8" fighter, but he lost it. Now he's at 5'7.5", 34 years old, orthodox. Even though William Skull does have that interesting peekaboo thing, like he does have that sniper waiting for the arm and then just throws the punch and this or that, he does have some level of that. But even though Canelo is not at his prime, and this is his 20th year in boxing, and he might retire until October, because October 2005 was his debut in his first ever fight, and he's almost at 20 years. And I've seen a lot, guys, I have seen some decent moments with mostly of talking about William Skull. I have seen information about him. The first time I heard about him was during the Jaime Munguia versus Canelo Alvarez. And even though people didn't want to see the Eric Berlanga or Jaime Munguia fighting Alvarez in 2024, but those were interesting fights. I enjoyed it. But yeah, again, there are better fights. And even though we wanted to see David Benavidez with Alvarez, may never happen, but it was worth a try for the heck of it. That's good. But Alvarez has done an okay job. Now, guys, Alvarez's resume isn't that bad. When you look at his first 30 professional fights, he was being a hype job early on, and then he started winning out fights after he was at 40 professional fights, lost against Mayweather. And ever since seeing William Skull for the first time when he fought against Sean Hemphill in a great 8-round fight that he scored a round 5 knockout, won a good fight, and I was like, okay, and I did saw some interesting information about him because it seemed like it was a good fight for me, and I thought William Skull looked like a Cuban fighter that had a lot of skills into himself. Like he was a couple years younger than him. It was interesting. I wouldn't say much about it. But yet again, even after seeing a little bit of footage and videos of him boxing against Sean Hemphill and seeing some of that stuff, I was thinking to myself that he might be a more dangerously good fighter to defeat Canelo Alvarez. That is until we heard about October the 19th for the IBF World Super Middleweight vacant title. He defeated Vladimir in a close 12-round fight, so not that good, but I still think William Skull will put a good performance. He might win 3 or 4 rounds in that fight. He might not do better. Will he do better than Jaime Munguia did to Alvarez? I think so. He might not win the fight, but I think he can put in a good performance that he might pull out a surprising punch. That might even be one lucky punch and might take out Alvarez. But is he the man if he does beat Alvarez? Well, you can call William Skull the man of boxing if he does beat Alvarez, but if that's true, will he win in a rematch? And even if he does he have what it takes to beat the other top contenders in boxing? I don't think so. But I can see putting him a good show. So I do think we might see a good show here. I do believe he has what it takes. I do will want to root for William Skull. I've only been around him for a year now, supporting him, and I really wished him good luck for the IBF belt off camera. But yet again, it is what it is. But what about the other fights on the card? Well, Badu Jack was originally supposed to take on a little bit of an interesting top contender here. But he decided to take on, well, technically I wouldn't really say much about this because the WBC World Cruiserweight title, as some people think it was won by Badu Jack because he won it back a few months ago at the end of the year. But on BoxRec, it still says that the Fire Norer is still champion, so who knows? Both of these guys haven't fought since 2023. Since November, Norer from mostly Armenia hasn't fought since. February 2023, Badu Jack hasn't fought for 2 years straight. But these guys are past their prime of boxing, and I do wish Badu Jack luck, but I don't think he has what it takes. He was going to take on a Canadian fighter in the cruiserweight, a former guy that used to be in the Bridgerweight division, but yet again, I wouldn't say much about it, named Ryan Rozicki. But for some reason, he got pulled out, meaning we have a new fighter for Norer that's taken over. These guys haven't been in the boxing ring. They haven't even fought in 2024. So seeing them fight for a title here in this big event, I wish them luck. I wish them luck. And also, guys, I feel bad that Jaime Munguia is now a bummed fighter. He lost against a guy named Bruno Saraz last December by a round 6 KO, which was the biggest defeat in history, considering how Munguia knocked him down in round 2, and then he put his arms down for several rounds straight, thinking he was going to win the fight, and then in round 6, upset victory. And I think Canelo Alvarez killed Jaime Munguia's record and is 50-0, and now his career is dead. So even if this May the 3rd fight, Jaime does win, his career is already dead to begin with, depending on how many more fights he can try to fight back. I wish him luck, but I doubt he might win. And here's something interesting. We have ranked number 6 cruiserweight fighter Richard Riakarf from the UK at 35 years old is fighting a random person in his heavyweight debut. Ever since his loss against Chris Balam Smith last June of last year for the WBO World Cruiserweight title, they think it's probably for the best that he should not be in the cruiserweight. So he's going to go to heavyweight. He was in the eliminator for IBF in 2022, but everything went downhill for some wins he had. But yet again, I don't know much about this guy. Wish him best of luck. But I really can't say much about that. I don't know if this guy has what it takes in boxing, but who knows? Also, guys, Ryan Garcia is back. He's trying to fight a new fighter against Romero on May the 3rd as well. So watch out, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be another fight we'll talk about. But also, guys, let's go to May the 4th in T-Mobile Arena, where we'll have Roman Cardenas taking on Naoya Inoue, because that's a simple fight. Naoya Inoue, ladies and gentlemen, is back. We're going to have live television view on USA, ESPN, ESPN Knockout, USA, ESPN Plus, and Panama Telemetro Channel 13. So if anyone has those sites live, you guys can watch that live, as you can on May the 4th. Live from Bob Arum Top Rank Boxing, which I'm surprised that this guy is still alive, just like Don King. Rafael Espinoza at 26-0 is taking on Edwin Vasquez for his WBO World Featherweight title. Defending it for a 3rd time. Nothing much of an interesting fight about that, so good luck for that win. Other fights on the card aren't going to be that interesting, but with Art Barrera Jr., Mikito Nakano, and Emiliano Vargas and Rohan Polanco. Undefeated fighters are taking on random dudes that are just build-up fights. So I wish them luck for Bob Arum and his card. There will be no DAZN as we speak. Oh, still one more. Oh. Why is there still one more in here? What the heck? Why is there still one more in here? There. All right, good. Pain in the butt. But anyway, guys, back to Inoue and Cardenas before my nose starts itching more. Started having a hard time for that. So, guys, here's the thing we have to know about Roman Cardenas. So, guys, Roman Cardenas is 26, 14-1, 14 knockouts, 1 loss, ranked 11 in super bantamweight, 29 years old. He's known as the Dynamita, interesting name. He's boxed for 10 years now. His last fight was against Brian Acosta in February a few months ago. And here's the thing. His beginning part of his career was pretty interesting for the start until April of 2017. He lost against his first fighter by a majority decision. It was his first close fight in boxing, but yet again, that would be the least of his worries. He continued boxing a couple more times that year, and by 2018, he took it easy, winning interesting fights that are nothing much. Then he takes on a guy with a 14-6 record, losing more fights in his last few fights in October for the American Boxing Federation Intercontinental Featherweight vacant title. He goes 10 rounds the distance against the guy, and the fight ends with 2 scores going 96-94, 97-93. So that's his second close fight he's been in, 1 for 1 for each win-loss. And then in March, the next fight against an 8-2-1 fighter, he goes 6 rounds decision by split decision, a third close fight. And then, of course, he takes on another fighter in November that year, which was scored cards like 59-55, 58-56 by 1, but I won't count that. But then he takes a full year off because of COVID until February of 2021. He fights a guy that nothing much to talk about, but for the North American Boxing Association, a USA Bantamweight title, Super Bantamweight, I guess it is a thing, and, well, he barely goes 8 rounds of decision against this guy, which is another close fight. And that same year, he gets a good round 3 TKO win, and then in July of 2022, he takes on a 20-1 fighter named Michel Banquez, and has 2 judges scoring it 97-93 and 196-94. Another tough fight for Raymond. So this is a really tough thing, guys, that when I keep looking at his resume more closely and his competition for who he's fighting, he's barely not winning a lot of fights that are contenders. But he's barely winning against fighters that he should easily win. That I question a lot. So it's bad. So in 2023, by May and September, he gets those 2 fights. His first fight was by round 2 cornerman retirement, which was nothing but a fight, nothing much. Then he takes on a 15-0 guy named Rafael Pedroza, and Pedroza. And surprisingly, he goes round 2 by KO, wins the first round easily and finishes it. So he gets his big push. So that win bumps him up higher in boxing. And then in February, he fights a 10-round fight against a 30-5 guy from Mexico for the WBC Feckerbox Super Bantamweight title. And the fight ends by a cornerman retirement when Cardenas' fighter Rodriguez was unable to continue by the end of round 6 due to a severe broken jaw. And surprisingly, that fight ended with 2 scores being 57 even and 159 to 57, favoring Rodriguez. But it wasn't a technical decision. It was a cornerman retirement. There was no score for going halfway through. So yeah, but it was still a close fight. And then 2 months later, he fights in April against Jesus Ramirez Rubio for the vacant WBA Continental North America Super Bantamweight title against another Mexican guy. And he manages to knock him out in round 9 by KO in a 10-round fight halfway through that round. The strangest thing is the scorecards had 2 judges scoring it 77 to 75, both for 1 each for Raymond Cardenas and Rodriguez. Who was this fighter again? Jesus Ramirez Rubio. And the other judge had 76 even. So there's another close fight that would have been a loss for Cardenas. And then his last fight in February, Brian Acosta, he comes out, 2 scorecards, scored it 95 to 94, 197 to 92, favoring unanimous win against Cardenas. And the thing was, Cardenas had a problem when he was knocked down in round 7 by Brian. And Brian did have a problem early in the fight, even though he did win round 4 and dominated round 7 by that knockout punch and hurt Cardenas very bad in round 8 and round 9, winning 4 rounds. The other rounds were Cardenas, and Cardenas did finish the last round easily at the end to get a 95 to 94, which was my score. So you do question yourself that Acosta wasn't originally supposed to lose that fight, and Cardenas was just an easy pick for Inoue. So my point is, guys, Cardenas has barely been winning out fights in his entire career. He's not had not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, but 8 professional fights since 2017 to 24-25. He's had 8 professional fights by close disparity, whether they're by knockout wins or decisions. He's won 7 out of 8 of them. So I do question Cardenas being the opponent for Inoue in America in a few days as of right now. So I do question that. I do question that a lot, and I think we all have to understand that maybe this is not a good fight for Cardenas. I don't think Cardenas has what it takes to handle himself. He barely wins fights against guys like anyone else, and Inoue is just a dangerous fighter that is an interesting win. Now, can Inoue handle going to America again? He's been through it a few times, so he might have a chance. But I doubt it because it's just a real pain in the butt. I just don't see this being the case. So I really do doubt what's going to happen in the future. I just don't know what's going to happen, guys. I just really don't know what's going to happen. It's just a really bad fight for me to think of, and I just question this. I just don't see this being a good fight. And yet again, I just don't see it being close. Inoue has an easy win here, and Cardenas, I wish him best of luck for one lucky punch. So who knows? Guys, speaking about title fights, after the South Korean had one heavyweight fighter winning a great first round knockout win 2 weeks ago, on April the 25th, and of course for the Federación Argentina de Box Argentinian heavyweight title, where Ariel Esteban wins a round 7 TKO to be another, well, just nothing but a journeyman fighter, picks up a great win at rank 253. Gets a good win there. Yesterday, as recording this episode, in Italy for the European Boxing Union silver heavyweight title, Pazman Safkani squeaks out a great 12-round fight, gets his 17th win by one loss from Sweden at rank number 107, defeats 17-3 fighter from Italy to win the title in his country. He knocked down his opponent a couple of times later in round 9 and round 11 to become champion, but I can't say much about this guy. He's boxed for now 10 years now as we're speaking, but ever since his first professional loss was against some random nobody dude in 2023, even though he won that fight by rematch against that guy, I don't think this guy has any skills to be in the title, so who knows. But yeah, it's really tough. The WBF International Heavyweight title is taking place in the Munich, Bayern, Germany, where we have two guys. One guy is ranked at number 168 in heavyweight with 4 wins, undefeated. Can't pronounce his name right. The other guy is also from the Bosnia of Herzegovina, a jobber that might not win this fight easily. So best of luck to this 29-year-old German dude. I wish him best of luck of winning that title, which is happening today as I'm making this video on the 1st of May. So good luck if that fight happens. Here's the thing that makes things interesting. We have another fight that's also happening on May the 10th against Felix Langberg, taking on Dennis Lewandowski. Ranked number 169 in the heavyweight, 15-2, 33. Not much of a great prime fighter. Lost against some interesting fighters that are just waste of time. So they're fighting for the WBF International title as well, which is kind of questioned for me. So I don't know why that's the case. I wish for May the 17th and May the 23rd for 2 big fights for WBF World Heavyweight and EBU European titles that are happening in Europe as we speak. So I really can't say much about that, considering there's a lot of titles happening as we speak. So we're going to see who becomes champion as we speak. So guys, information-wise, I've been trying to follow out the atomweight division of boxing. We're hearing no reports of Tina Ruperchet taking on Samira Yamanaka in a rematch. It seems like the rematch is not going to take place. I'm getting reports that there's nothing taking place. There's no information-wise of whatsoever in boxing. Tina Ruperchet that actually cheated out, as in her country helped Tina Ruperchet of her German country to defeat Samira Yamanaka, a fighter that's a young fighter, 9 years younger than her, got cheated out in going to some woman's country where 2 German female judges, a referee that actually counted a slip in round 9 that should have been a knockout win, one judge that scored it 99-91 by a large margin, one that was 96-95, meaning one of the scores was a 10-10 favoring Ruperchet, favoring it by another judge with a 95 even score, which in my mind would have been a 95-95 even, but it should have been 95-94 as I scored it. There is still no information-wise whatsoever if there's any information of the fight taking place. So we don't know much about what's going to happen. I'm still trying to find information, ladies and gentlemen, but the problem is all the information from women's boxing and other reports have not made an update since. So I'm really questioning why the atomweight, or why there's no people talking about the lower weight division of Tina Ruperchet robbing Samira Yamanaka, a Japanese female that had more rights to bring her country to prominence, to prove that Japanese women aren't just women that are getting harmed or molested in train stations for no reason, being attacked by grown people, strangers that should not be deserved to be that treated that properly, which is bad. And Samira Yamanaka had that opportunity to bring Japanese women to a great big victory. She goes to a country that might rob her of a win, which did. And if they don't get a rematch again, only this time in Japan, it's just going to make boxing more bad for Japanese women because they're getting cheated as we speak. All I can say, guys, is for all information-wise, I do question problems here. It just doesn't make sense. There's a lot of question problems here that I do have problems with. And to be honest, it doesn't make sense, and I really am trying to question a lot of controversy here because it doesn't make sense why we have to sit down and start seeing this type of incompetence. This is the worst I can say for boxing as we speak. And the thing is, there's a lot of problems here because, guys, the information is pretty tough here. Because Yamanaka appears to have a bright future, even as a 23-year-old. With more time to improve in the atomweight division with other talented boxers beside Rupert Chet and Yamanaka, with Matsuda and Noah Ugawa, another Japanese undefeated contender, as holding the WBO Asia Pacific Atomweight Championship, and I wish her best of luck of becoming a world champion and probably a unified champion. I think it's best to say that we really have to start seeing other things that we have to understand because there's more controversy here as we speak when boxing is already being corrupted for no reason. This is so controversial for all boxing that I really, really believe that this is just destroying the women's boxing in Japan as we speak. It's destruction as everyone else here. It's a one-blown call where you have to throw one great punch to bring the fight to your victory. You knock out Tina Ruperchet in the first 30 seconds of the 9th round. Referee calls it a slip. A person online ignores everything I say about it for how ridiculous this boxing fight is for all fans to see because this is controversial for Japanese women to be not that respected of when you have to put that incompetence to work. This is all incompetence for women's boxing, even when you're making it controversial for Japanese women that can't catch a break in life. And I wish I can go to Japan to help out Japanese women and be around with other people to take care of. And I really want to go to Japan and start living out a good thing there. Of course, I already have a dumb pastor that's an idiotic pastor, a caseworker that's giving me crap, letting me work at Pine Tree State for a bunch of people that I shouldn't work with. It's a waste of time. And they think that I should don't even think I have what it takes to live out. I know I can do that. I just want to challenge myself in dangerous situations all the time, no matter what the cost is. And they're holding me back. So this is all disrespect for putting other people like myself in horrific fashion when you start seeing this type of competence, and that's what I hate the most. And with me not being there to help out or support these people or give them a chance, and me just doing nothing but rambling about this on YouTube, which I don't want to, but I want the attention, not to get views. I'm not doing this to get views or more subscribers. I'm doing this to help out people like Japanese women to give themselves a bigger push. That's what I'm trying to do in this video. And I'm not doing this for paid promotional. Like, guys, you can look this video up right now and say that I am not doing paid promotion for this one clip I'm talking about right now because it's just so controversial for me that it just makes you wonder, why should I even continue talking about this? Because I'm doing this just to give a rematch. And if no one online is even paying attention to this or not talking about it because this is forgotten information, I'm going to make this information re-forgotten and not unforgotten. I'm making this more less forgotten as it is. And that's the reason why I'm making this video. This is history that we have to give more opportunities, or else we're going to have another controversial thing like George Foreman that made a controversial win against Axel Schultz. That Axel Schultz did beat George Foreman, and they stripped away the IBF belt and other belts, and that's it. So we need more. We don't need more of this controversy in boxing, and it's that bad to see this. And that's what I hate about it. All right. Finally. So guys, we're now guys, I don't know much about the reports, ladies and gentlemen, about any other thing that might go on, ladies and gentlemen, for this month of May. But so to keep this on, ladies and gentlemen, May the 2nd, which is tomorrow on Thursday, or Thursday, not, I meant Friday. So tomorrow's Friday, but of course this video, as I'm recording this video on May the 3rd, so this fight already happened. So I don't know what just happened in the fight. Teofimo Lopez, ranked number 1 of the greatest fighter in the super lightweight, will be taking on another controversial guy named Arnold Barboza Jr., a guy that also had multiple close fights in his career, just like Ramon Cardenas. And WBO interim champion is going to try to take on Lopez for his WBO belt. I wish him best of luck, but I don't think Barboza has a chance to win this fight. Like, it might be a fluke win for him because he's been having a lot of these random fights that are really questioned. So I really don't know what's going to happen. And I wish Devin Hanley the best of luck to take on Jose Carlos Ramirez. Even though ever since his loss against Ryan Garcia, which now counts as a no contest, so who knows? And Ramirez already lost a close unanimous decision last November against Barboza. So we're going to see how this fight is going to throw in the towel, because it's going to be an interesting fight to see two guys that are trying to recover their careers. Carlos has nothing to lose. He's already lost 2 fights in his career, so I'm sure Jose Carlos Ramirez has no problem. His 2 losses were close decisions against Josh Kelly and Barboza Jr., so I'm sure he's not going to have a problem taking on Devin Haney. So this might be a good win in Times Square. I can't wait to see that fight. It's going to be pretty interesting to see this fight in Times Square, but it will be interesting. Finally, guys, in boxing, guys, let's talk about the Japanese female of boxing again. So, guys, the word of Japanese female boxing is this. April the 30th, ladies and gentlemen, in the Korakuen Hall, which is one place I really like to go, Megumi Watanabe, with a record of 3 wins, 0 losses, and 6 draws, she lost her first professional fight against Montbank Miki. Interesting name. She got obliterated in 6 rounds. And that woman picks up her 7th win, 8 losses, and 1 draw. Not good. And Anira Ozawa picks up her 2nd win and her 2nd knockout. 2 wins and 1 draw. Good win there. She's going to fight in June the 26th against Pei Yi Wu, a Taiwan fighter that's 4-0, undefeated, ranked number 24 in the featherweight, while she is ranked 45 in super bantamweight. So good luck for these 2 Asian females to pick up a good fight. Female boxing, Kure Tanaka, her debut fight did not do well. She lost against Wakayoshi Yoshida. So that's going to be another waste of talent there. 2 other fighters that are nothing much fighters to talk about. And other fighters, they're in their debut, well, they failed. So nothing interesting in boxing there for women's boxing. We saw a little bit of upset victory against one male boxer in the lightweight named Rikitaro Dabata that picks up his 2nd win by first round KO against a 2-0 fighter in this country. So he's ranked number 694 in the lightweight division. So yeah, this 17-year-old kid, I wish him best of luck. It's going to be interesting. This was by Shota Furusawa Promotion. Not much of a guy to talk about other than he's been a promoter for 13 years right now, so it's going to be interesting to look at. And when I talk about Korakuen Hall, I love Korakuen Hall in Japan. It brings a lot of interesting things. Like on April the 22nd, we already had some... Okay. Sorry guys about that. Just goes to show you how much time if you don't have enough gigabytes on your phone. So yeah, like I was saying about talking about that, I didn't realize my phone. I kept talking for like 20 more seconds until I realized my phone was off. So like I said before, guys, there's a lot of shows that are happening in Korakuen Hall. And I won't get into it too much because I already talked about it before. I was also going to talk about the super flyweight division of women's boxing when I realized my camera was turned off. Is it on? Oh, good, it's on. But yeah, it is interesting. Sorry for the sunlight. I'm just going to end this podcast because the sunlight's getting worse. But here's the thing. For all boxing and everything else happening here, Marlon Esparza is 35 years old and she's ranked in the super flyweight after her loss against Yokasta. Who knows if that makes sense? Mizuki Hirota, WBO super flyweight champion. Irma Garcia is a past prime 43-year-old Mexican woman that's an IBF champion. WBC champion Ashley Gonzalez, super flyweight. Jasmine Artiga, 13-0-1, ranked number 12 in super flyweight, WBA. I can see some interesting stuff here. So Mizuki is taking on Carla Ayelen, a great Argentina fighter. That's going to be an interesting win because she hasn't lost since 2021. During her first 5 professional fights, she had 3-2 record. Now she's out for a 16-2. I hope Mizuki wins this fight. I don't want another Japanese woman to be a failure in America. I really want her to be big here. So if she does win this fight, I do see some interesting competition from Mizuki Hirota fighting this. Like, here's what I think. Ashley Gonzalez versus Jasmine Artiga, WBA and WBC champion. Irma Garcia, IBF, takes on WBO Mizuki Hirota. Winner, they go for a tournament, and we go for a undisputed super flyweight champion. And Mizuki might pick out a win. So I will expect that to be the case, but it's 1,000,000 to 1 that my idea might come true there, depending on how this whole thing works. And even though, like, guys, Mizuki has defended the belt a good amount of times, not against bad fighters. Like, she's 7-0. She's picked out good wins. And even though she has held the belt for a good amount of years, same for, I think, for Ashley Gonzalez, there is some interesting moments here we should be careful of because there's enough fighters here that can pull out good victories. But guys, let's pay attention to the bantamweight division. So guys, Ellie Scottney is the IBF WBO ring champion for super bantamweight. She's picked out great wins in her career. And Nazarena Romero is WBA. Yamileth Marsado is WBC champion in super bantamweight. You have another bantamweight weight class division like Chinaka Johnson is WBA. Dina Thorslund is WBC, WBO, and ring champion with Sharetta Metcalf, a IBF champion. And I do see some interesting things about that as well. The bantamweights being big. Dina Thorslund is the greatest boxer from all pound for pound. She is the #1 greatest pound for pound boxer of all Not just in her weight class for bantamweight, but for all, even in BoxRec. Trineka Johnson is number 3 in the bantamweight. Well, Sharuda Metcalf, a woman that's ranked number 12 in the bantamweight. She's 40 years old, 14, 4-1, and a 1-0 contest. And in Madison Square Garden on July the 11th, her and Dina Thorsland are going to fight it out in, of course, Thorsland's going to her backyard, but this might be a good win for Shuda if she pulls out a great upset victory. If so, she might even take on Trineka Johnson for undisputed. And maybe Trineka Johnson can actually be undisputed. Her loss against Ellie Scottney last year, even though they were known for her in the weigh-in because she was wearing a thong, but the fight itself ended horrific because the ugly British woman of Ellie Scottney won. And she's fighting for all undisputed against Yamileth Marsado, one piece of the other title, and they're fighting in Madison Square Garden as well that night on Netflix on July the 11th. They have Katie Taylor and Mana Serrano fighting as well. Alicia Baumgartner is taking on a past prime 38-year-old, the Spanish woman named Jennifer Miranda, 12-0 undefeated. And Tom Thibault, 2-0, takes on Mary Casamassa for a middleweight fight, 8-round fight. So I'm going to see an interesting card here. Considered it's by promoter Mike Leonardi. This is going to be an interesting show for all female boxing in one show. I'm going to be really interesting to watch that on July the 11th. It's going to be a really interesting show. It's going to be interesting. I hope Thorsland wins the fight. And even though guys, I'll be honest, Ellie Scottney is not a beautiful woman. Like, when you look at this woman's face, number 2 in the super bantamweight, this woman's face, she's 27 years old. Her face, even though she's 27 years old and Trineka Johnson is 30 years old from Australia, a beautiful woman, beautiful thong, and yeah, beauty doesn't win all the time, but you got to give credit. Ellie Scottney proves that she is a really dangerous fighter. That's what makes her that dangerous. Not by her looks. That's the thing. It just goes to show you that looks don't win boxing. It's how dangerous you are. Which I do question, because if Trineka Johnson will recover for her to win that IBF bantamweight and holds on for it for a while, and until Dina Thorsland defeats Sharuda Metcalf in July the 11th to win that piece of IBF title, and then they'll fight for undisputed with her and Trineka Johnson. Dina Thorsland is another beautiful Denmark lady that can also put out an interesting fight against Trineka Johnson, and that will be an interesting fight. If Sharuda wins, she might not even think about taking on Dina Thorsland. She'll just fight for Trineka Johnson, and we'll see how that fight goes. And Trineka Johnson might prove herself and might become undisputed. So, yeah, it is interesting. And also for Nazarena Romero, WBA champion, it's going to be interesting for her because for everything else, as super bantamweight boxing here, it's pushing up a little bit interesting by a minute because her next fight in Argentina is against a 12-1-1 fighter in America named Mayeli Flores, a Mexican woman that's not much of a ranked fighter, but takes on some fighters in her career. So good luck if she actually takes this win to the cake. So, yeah, this might be an easy undisputed championship for Ellie Scottney. Oh, that's delicious. So, yeah, what's my final take on this, ladies and gentlemen? Well, I am interested to see what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to know what will happen. We still have some interesting moments here. We've already had some, well, yet again, I really don't know what to say about this. Like, there's a lot of interesting ranked out champions out there that are interesting. I'm also happy that Hyunmi Choi, that was still ranked under top 10 at 11. Yeah, Hyunmi Choi is out of the rankings because she hasn't boxed in over a year since her loss against Jessica Kamara, and thank God, because if her career is done for because of that. South Korea just wasted talent over another boxer, and even Bomi Rishin, that's ranked number three, wasted a Japanese female by Aka Ringo in September 2022, and this woman's career is effed as well after that horrific loss when she was originally supposed to fight for the WBA super featherweight champion. And after all this time from all super featherweight female boxing since 2020 to now 2024, from Michaela Mayer, Alicia Baumgartner, Bomi Sheen, Define Pursoon, Michaela Mayer, and even Cristiana Lidarato, the woman that defeated Bob Gardner a long time ago. Not one super featherweight, some Bischoff in the female featherweight, super featherweight, got over. They failed. This is the most embarrassing thing. And seeing the September fight with Baumgartner taking on Define Pursoon and how that ended in head clash and no contest, yeah, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for how bad the super featherweight division is for women's boxing. Every female boxer in the super featherweight from 2020 to 2024 died. They failed miserably. And the only female that decided to escape from that and actually managed to put herself a good career, as from Terry Harper that failed miserably, the only woman that got out alive from this and still having a okay career is Beatriz Ferreira, a 6-0 Brazilian female that has 6 wins, 2 knockouts, and the IBF World Lightweight title in her hands. And I wish her best of luck next month against another 11-0-1 undefeated fighter in the zone, which that fight's going to take place next month. I really don't know what to say about this. It's really bad to see competition like that, and it's bad to see. It's just bad to see a lot of these things become failures in time, and it is bad. Like, it is crazy how you have Anthony Yardy squeak out a good decision against Lyndon Arthur in the light heavyweight, and he's back in the top 10 ranks. Liam Smith failed miserably against an upset victory against an Irish guy last week ago named Aaron McKenna, and he's in the top number 6 in middleweight, so good job for him picking up a good win here. So, yeah, it's interesting to see this. And we also have another Japanese fighter that's actually in boxing right now that has the most popularity as of right now. And his name is Raito Tsutsumi. And for the last 24 hours, this guy picked up more than 16 followers trending him online. He has 83 followers, surpasses Garcia. And the thing is, this guy's first professional fight is going to be in Times Square on May the 2nd in his debut of boxing. This 22-year-old guy is going to take on an American fighter named Laval Whittington, a 25-year-old guy that's 1-2-5, 1-2-1 in his record. And he's going to fight in Times Square tomorrow on May the 2nd for the Teofimo Lopez versus Arnold Barboza. And I'm questioning how this whole show is going to take place because, like I said before, the show is called Fatal Fury City of the Wolves by Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy Promotions, with Eddie Hearn of Matchroom involved in this. So it's going to be interesting to see how this show is going to take place with Teofimo Lopez and Arnold Barboza fight, with Devin Haney and Carlos Ramirez and Ryan Garcia and Rolando Romero. And then we have this random fight that's interesting And Reito Tatsumi is getting a lot of likes and followers on BoxRec more than Garcia or Jesse Bam Rodriguez, considering he has 83 followers. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to push him to stardom if he wins this fight. But, yeah, I wish best of luck for Reito Tatsumi, a Japanese guy that has had 0 professional fights, and he's fighting tomorrow. I wish you best of luck, considering this video will be uploaded one day after that fight, so we'll see how you turned out. I think a lot of people know this might be a waste of time, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. So guys, the world of professional boxing is the most fun thing I like to talk about. But guys, I don't like talking about information like this all the time because it's not that interesting to listen to. This right here is history in the makings. When you have a guy, you have a former heavyweight championship boxer going into the ring against a guy that's a 17-1 favorite. And guys, when you viewers watch the press conference in August, you see a guy named Peter McNeely in the press conference taking on Mike Tyson. This is one of the biggest squash jobs I've ever seen in history. And guys, when you look at it, Peter McNeely was just a guy that was just picking out fights because Don King gave him those fights because he wanted to rate his fighter high in the rankings to give Mike Tyson a piece of Christmas turkey just to make him get back up on the ranks, even though Pete McNeely was a hype job. Let me explain. So, for the last year, Don King gave McNeely so many fighters that were ranked 26 and 13 in June, where was a better fighter guy. He was taking on guys that in their last 6 professional fights were guys that lost a lot of fights. Like the best fighter I could say for McNeely was a guy he took on in January the 20th named Kevin Wyrick, 16-7, one fighter. Even though the guy's last 6 fights was a win-win-win-win, and the last 2 fights were a loss-loss. But yet again, there was nothing interesting. He started fighting other guys in February, March, and then his last fight was in April, and all those fights were lame. They were all first-round knockout losses. And you want to know what's crazy? Even though the fight, like Peter McNeely took on Frankie Hines on April the 22nd in a convention auditorium in Arkansas, Kansas, he comes into the fight. McNeely knocks out Hines in 6 seconds with a left hook. I tried to find the video online about this, ladies and gentlemen, to see how the fight ended. Almost like the information of how they had one fight where I think it was an Australian fighter, Jimmy Thunder, that made one throw punch and landed, and the guy went down. The referee counted all the way to 10 and ended the fight in 11 seconds. I tried to find information, but of course, a guy on the Centennial record of Hot Springs, Arkansas, made the video or made a post by Centennial Record sports editor named Bob Wiesner, talked about the fastest record of 6-second KO against Hurricane Peter McNeely, where he, well, considering how, can't say much about this, it's ridiculous, but I really can't talk about how horrifically bad this is. I tried to find information about this, but for some reason, I really couldn't find it. So, 4 months later, Tyson is out of jail, and by August, they're setting up this fight for him and Tyson. And Don King comes out, the Irish Hurricane Peter McNeely, and the crowd applauses. And it's so ridiculous. It was so awesome. He's yelling at everyone. People aren't respecting him, and for 3 months since it was been announced that he was going to take on Tyson, a guy that's been dumb for a year, being in jail, and Mike Tyson is just smiling of how easy this fight is. Peter picks up a paper and says, "I'm Hurricane Peter McNeely, and on Saturday, Medfield and Mass Saturday night, watch me kick Tyson's arse. But if you haven't made your pay-per-view arrangements yet, make them soon, because remember what happens when I rap in my cocoon." Thank you, Don King said, and that's how it ended for some reason. Like, I love Peter McNeely and his promo Saturday night. Watch me kick Carson's ass, and it's great. And then Tyson comes in, boring. The last 20 seconds with him and that he profit everything about this or that, and he's happy that everybody made their statement and this or that, blah blah, and like he's ready to fight. Thank you everyone for your support, and that's it. So there's nothing much about Tyson in the talk there. It's nothing much. I will say, though, it is interesting. I actually love the video that Peter McNeely did on his channel, him talking about the fight. And Peter McNeely actually feels himself proud. I love that before the fight, someone's interviewing him into the ring, and he starts making, I can't find the backstage interview before he comes to the fight. I forgot. It is interesting, but yeah, I will say, though. So I will say this, though, guys. It is interesting. As the full fight, this fight does take you to a little bit of an interesting stepping stone for what it is. So it's interesting. Both guys are pushing themselves to limits as 224 Peter McNeely and everything going on. Both guys are setting each other up, which is a big thing. Now, guys, on August the 19th, they already... So, guys, the show and the event was mostly the return of Don King, of returning Tyson. That night in MGM Grand in Nevada, we had Quincy Taylor picking up his WBC middleweight win against Julian Jackson. Unbelievable win against Miguel Angel Gonzalez, winning a WBC World Lightweight title against Lamar Murphy. Bruce Seldon manages to get his successful WBA win against Joe Hip, which was WBA at the time. Terry Norris defeated Luis Santana for the WBC World Super Welterweight, their third meeting in a trilogy, which I did not know that happened the same night. Keep that in mind. There's going to be a lot of information I'm going to talk about Terry Norris and Luis Santana. So keep that in mind. There's going to be a lot of fun information when I get to that. It's going to be fun. So that night had a lot of interesting moments, if that makes sense. Yeah, knockout wins, you name it. And they already had their own talks, this or that, and everything else was interesting. Interesting for what it is. And with everything going on, they already had their own talks, this or that, and they had information. The commentators, I think Sugar Ray Leonard was involved in some stuff. I think he was at the time. We already had a backstage interview with someone interviewing Peter McNeely, and I love how Peter McNeely. I forgot what he said about. I forgot what he called. I forgot what. Guys, it is bad because even calling the fight at the time. I will say, though, there was a lot of problems about this because I forgot. Guys, let's watch the video. Guys, I'm going to play an interview and see what he said because I want to know. Okay, here's the video of the full fight. Okay, so here's what Peter McNeely said.
With Mike Tyson. This is for My grandfathers. My grandmothers. My father.
My father.
My mother.
My mother.
Curly.
Curly.
My 3 brothers. Last but not least, Snobby.
Snobby. That's the word. Yeah, that was the thing that got me there. I love that Peter McNeely, that this is from my father, my mother. Oh, wait. What did he say?
McNeely, what was it that you told your son?
Wait.
And last but not least, Medfield.
Medfield! I forgot about that.
You had this experience. It didn't
Oh, Medfield, I love it. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yes, Peter McNeely's father took on Floyd Patterson in the 50s when he won back his title against the Swedish fighter of Ingemar Johansson in their third meeting.
For you hit the canvas several times, but what have you told him about your experience that you hope he will apply tonight?
I forgot about this.
Peter, go out and do your best. You're
Go.
in shape, mentally and physically. I wish I was in such shape when I fought Patterson as Peter is.
That is
Not only
true.
physically for Mike Tyson, but he's going to go out there tonight. He's ready, and he's going to knock Mike Tyson out of surprise.
Oh, boy.
You said the same thing.
Oh, boy.
We have the cartoon of it right here that you were going to knock him out. Peter said the other day.
Dude, that's an awesome
It's
picture.
a family show. We can't repeat it. You were wrong, but you think that Peter will be right.
Oh, my
Peter's going
goodness.
to make me right. That's about it.
Oh, my
He's ready,
goodness.
and he's going to do it, Jim.
Dude. Guys, it's so bad when I told you viewers about the resume that Peter McNeely fought against guys that had their last 6 fights by losses, taking on nobodies, and because Don King fed him stuff for stuffing for his turkey and have Mike Tyson eat him, and his father, Peter McNeely's father, is telling him that he's ready, but when you look at his resume, you can tell that this was not good. That's how bad this is. It is what it is. Don King had the brains for this, but we don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, looking at it, it might be. Yeah, like I said, I love that Peter McNeely was having fun, that this is from my father, my 3 brothers, Curly, from the 3 Stooges, Larry, Isaac Yankum, Glenn Jacobs. This is for Kane, for Fake Diesel, Fake Razor Ramon. This is for Rick Bachner and Medfield. I love that so much, guys. I love the interview of Peter McNeely doing that interview. It was so fun. Oh, boy. And then they talked about the promo and the information about Tyson being in jail, this or that, and newspapers and such. And at the end of the day, let's just ignore all that. And also, Sugar Ray Leonard is there in ringside, or this or that, doing an interview. And guys, I do love the ring announcer. What's his name again?
Currently preparing for a shot at the IBF title, or perhaps another level.
Okay.
Right. Let's go up to our ring announcer, Jimmy Lennon.
Jimmy Lennon. Guys, I actually love Jimmy Lennon Jr. more than Michael Buffer. Like, I love his high-pitched voice, and I love he says, "It's time for the main event." I love that he comes up with his own idea. Instead of saying, "Let's get ready to rumble," I love he says, "It's time for the main event." I actually love Jimmy Lennon Jr. a lot more than Michael Buffer. Don't get me wrong, Michael Buffer is an okay dude. I love his deep voice, but this guy's high-pitched voice is really fun. Guys, I should be talking about other stuff here. Let's get to it. But anyway, guys, let me read through my notes and find the information because I want to get through this. Oh, yeah, and by the way, guys, here's what I wrote down. So, mostly for everything, all judges are from Nevada, which is Bill Graham, Dwayne Ford, and Chuck Giampa. And, of course, our favorite referee, referee Mills Lane, judge of Tennessee, and the guy that helped on Stone Cold Steve Austin with that legally binded contract with him and The Rock. Remember that back in '98? Before Undertaker hit Steve Austin with a shovel? Keep that in mind, huh? But yeah, it is interesting. Oh boy, it's pretty fun. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. So the information, tell the tape, is that McNeely's 26, 6'2". Tyson is 5'11 and a half, 29 years old, 220. Interesting. And they also have the rules for the matches. There's 10-point must-win system. 3 judges score fight. No standing 8 count. 3 knockdown rule is in effect. Only referee can stop the fight. It doesn't have to be 3 knockdown rules. So 3 knockdown rules. I'm actually surprised they still had that back in 1995. Interesting. Even people say that the WBA is still a legit thing. Or WBA says if you knock someone out 3 times in any round, 3 times, even for a WBA, they can stop the fight. Which also questioned me when Kevin Lorana knocked out Daniel Dubois 3 times in the first round for his WBA fight in Daniel Dubois' country. That's how controversial that fight was. Yeah, I just hope. That's why I'm questioning controversy for Daniel Dubois versus Oleksandr Usyk, but we'll get to that information in future times when that time comes. But yeah, they also put out other rules such as fighter cannot be saved by the bell except in the last round, accidental fouls before the end of round 3, there'll be no decision, but after the end of round 3, there will be scorecards, meaning they'll go to a technical decision if they want to. And, of course, if a guy enters the ring, even if they want to stop the fight, it might be a disqualification, or the referee will call it a knockout, which will, that's, will that play a fact? It might as well be. It might as well be, but yeah, interestingly. So, here's some of the notes and information. I will point this out. So here's some information that's interesting. So as for information-wise, it's going to be interesting. So here's the information where it's mostly surprising because I do find it interesting. So Peter McNeely is ranked in a surprising rank. So Jimmy Lennon Jr. announces him 6'2", 224 pounds from Medfield, Massachusetts. I love Medfield. McNeely's mouth is open wide, and he does have 1 professional loss. You want to know what that 1 professional loss was from McNeely's career? Well, we don't have to talk about who Tyson's first loss was. His first loss was back in 1994 against Stanley Wright for the USA New England heavyweight title. He lost in round 8 by TKO. Stanley Wright had an 8-5 record. And the rule, and it also stated on Box Rec that even after 7 rounds, McNeely was clearly winning the fight before getting stopped on a cut. He was cut, which is why the fight stopped. So yeah, that was his first legit loss. So can't say much about that, huh? Yeah, unlucky. Yeah, of course Tyson, Buster Douglas got him. Upset victory of Japan or the world. And that's all you have to know. So, 36 wins, 30 knockouts, 1 loss. And mostly it won't be his last loss. And it also says that he's ranked number 7 of the WBA heavyweight contender, which is not bad. And they tell him to fight, and it's Peter McNeely. Tyson, Catskill, New York, you love it. Professional record, 41 wins, 36 knockouts, 1 loss. I love it. And what actually really confused me about this is that because as a former undisputed world heavyweight champion, take that for what you will, not ranked. By the way, did Jimmy Lennon, I gotta look it up if he actually said anything. Wait, give me a second, guys. I want to make sure if Jimmy Lennon Jr. said anything. Give me a second. I want to see.
Heavyweight title and the last unified in the ring by beating the champions of the WBC, WBA, and IBF. Currently ranked the number 1 contender. Please welcome the former.
Yeah, that when I actually heard Jimmy Lennon say that, currently ranked number 1, I really got confused. I'm like, what are you talking about? Tyson hasn't even fought once, and he's taken on a guy that's ranked number 7 in the WBA. What else can you say about that? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. But let me get back to my notes. By the way, even before they announced Tyson walks by and then he accidentally gloves the cameraman because he's trying to get by him, or question mark. So I found that ridiculous. But yeah, so both guys enter the ring, and at this moment, Peter McNeely, he's moving back and forth. His mouth is open, Wade, and Tyson's looking back and forth with his eyes moving left and right because McNeely's moving like this all the time. and he's smiling, and his eyes are squinting like this, like he's trying to pretend not to be scared. And of course, guys, McNeely was scared. But you want to know what I was really shocked when I first saw this? Guys, when I was like 14 years old back in 2012, when I actually first saw this, even on YouTube at the time, which I think it was actually 2000. I think it was back in 2013, because I remember I was actually 15 years old when I was in my sophomore year of high school when I first saw this fight. That was surprising. I was shocked. I knew Peter McNeely looked scared, and he did not want to be in there with Mike Tyson. He knew he regretted it, but what really shocked me, guys, you know, every time in every boxing match, Mike Tyson gets in for the kill easily and fights and tries to beat the person up early in the fight. I love that it was the complete opposite. It's not like how Senicia Strata took on a woman with 4 wins undefeated. She was in her 40s, and she decided to stay still while Senicia was coming straight at her in the beginning part and starts throwing bam punches, 7 unanswered punches, and bam, referee stops it at 7 seconds, and that was the end of her career, of how bummed that fight was, the quickest knockout in women's boxing. This was the complete opposite. I was really surprised as a 15-year-old kid, as myself, or maybe 14 years old back in 2012 to 2013 when I first saw this. I was shocked. So this is what I wrote down. Fight starts. Commentators are talking about Tyson returning straight ahead as the elusive. But does he got anything else in prior of prison, doing this, working out? They ring the bell. Mills Lane starts the fight. And this is what I wrote. So I wrote down this or that, the commentators talking everything else. The elusive fighter is back in the ring. Ding, ding. And out of nowhere, Peter McNeely, I swear to God, I did not expect Peter McNeely to do this. I think Peter McNeely was scared, but he didn't want to chicken out. He had no choice but to do this. He had no choice. Don King gave him multiple wins and gave him this opportunity. What else can you say about it? I'm sure McNeely was like, okay, Tyson has been out of the ring for 4 years. He's not in his prime as he was since 1988. So there's nothing much. But no, they ring the bell and McNeely starts skipping. Tyson moves slowly, but McNeely is skipping his legs. Like he's taking 1/4. So he has his right foot like this. So this is what McNeely was doing. McNeely had his right foot like this. So he's just skipping. He lets off his left foot and puts both of his feet in the air and starts skipping like he's giddy-upping like a horse. Like that's how crazy it is. McNeely is skipping a full yard length straight to Tyson, going for the attack. It was so crazy. He skips in and starts to hammer him. Tyson notices he's going straight at him, so he levels a left punch to hit McNeely, and then they start throwing barrage of punches. McNeely pushes Tyson to the ropes, trying to scare him off. He throws a wild right punch, a left punch, misses Tyson. Tyson ducks. He had another punch thrown, right punch, and then as he's pushing him to the ropes, McNeely starts throwing a left. Tyson ducks. And then Tyson moves, go forward, hit a right punch. McNeely gets hit again, tries to throw a left. Tyson ducks that punch as well and hits the ground in the first seconds of the fight. And he gets back up. Mills Lane tells Tyson to go to a neutral corner, and Peter McNeely is jogging a full half length around the ring. And the referee stops him, and I thought with the first 10 seconds, McNeely is coming straight after Tyson, and then Mills Lane grabs his left arm, pushes him back. It was so crazy. The first seconds of the fight was so crazy. You gotta think to yourself how Peter McNeely was like, 1 minute he was so scared. I'll give credit, even though McNeely was scared, but he had no choice. It was like, I might as well give up, or I might as well try. He tried and he failed. That's how crazy this moment was. So it was so amazing how he came forward like that and to attack Tyson. It was so crazy. But at the end of the day, it didn't work out. So he continues the fight with 22 seconds of this round. Tyson attacks him. And McNeely is still throwing okay punches here and there. He corners Tyson to the rope again, punches, but Tyson's ducking out, throws everything he's got. He's ducking, and McNeely cornering Tyson again to the ropes, misses every punch. Punch, left, right. Tyson ducks. And Tyson then throws other punches straight to McNeely. Then he tries to push him. McNeely pushes Tyson again to the ropes, throws an uppercut as Tyson did, and he does it again. They start clinching, and which is crazy enough. And we're already now 1 minute into the fight. He goes straight forward to Tyson. Then he tries to throw a left, but then Tyson catches McNeely and traps his left arm as McNeely's trying to get him. And then he headbutts Tyson to the chin, which was scary enough. And Mills Lane tells him to stop, to just give them a warning not to do that again. But it doesn't matter because Tyson attacks McNeely, and then for some reason, McNeely looked like he was about to take a knee or something, and then gets back up and gets hit again and hits the canvas for a second time. He gets back up. At this moment, we're almost halfway through, but then as it looked like it was going to continue, McNeely's trainer comes in, he stops the fighter, and Mills Lane is like, what are they doing? What are they doing? But they just stopped the fight. His father, his trainer, for some reason, I don't know why they wanted McNeely to stop. McNeely was upset that they didn't want the fight to continue, even though McNeely was hurt, but he got back up quickly in those fights. I wanted to see a third knockout, but I don't think they wanted McNeely to get hurt that bad, but yeah, they celebrate the win. Tyson celebrates, and for God knows why. So, yeah, I'm not going to talk about why the fight ended in disqualification. So, information-wise is this. So, this is what we have. The information here, okay, still here. So, the information stated that even though the fight, McNeely was down twice when his manager came in with Vinny Vescioin entered the ring, forcing referee Mills Lane to disqualify him because his trainers came into the ring. Fans were upset that this wasn't a first-round knockout for Mike Tyson, so it does stink to see that. It was an easy victory over a great win in the background for everyone else out there. Considering he aggressively attacked Mike Tyson soon in the opening bell, but Tyson started to avoid everything. The aftermath of the fight stated that they highly anticipated the fight was an overwhelming financial success, grossing $96 million worldwide, including a then record of $63 million in pay-per-view buys, with the fight being purchased by 1.52 million views in American homes. Tyson would eclipse this figure with 3 fights in '96, a fight against Frank Bruno, and a fight against Evander Holyfield, and then subsequently a 1997 rematch with him and Holyfield in the ear bite. With everything else going on, the undercard of the show with Bruce Seldon winning, Miguel Angel Gonzalez pulling out an upset victory, Luis Santana winning the Battle of Trilogy against Terry Norris but lost the war in the final fight, and great win for Quincy Taylor against Julian Jackson, past prime fighter. This fight card was probably one of the greatest that some people think, but the main event itself was such a squash match, and Peter McNeely should have never been ranked or even fought against a guy that was that great than him. That's all I wrote. That's what I wrote down, and I wrote some of the information that was said in BoxRec. Like, half of that information was from BoxRec I wrote, but yeah. So everything else, guys, I will say, though, there's not a lot of information I can say about this other than it is crazy that you get to see this and ridiculous. But seeing how Peter McNeely felt, because, guys, after this, Peter McNeely would fight again 2 months later, get another win, and 2 months later wins another fight. And then he takes on other nobody fighters in '96. He takes on a 3-3-2 fighter in July of '96 against Louis Monaco, a guy that's unknown to the world, except defeating McNeely in round 5 by knockout in a 6-round fight. But then other fights later where McNeely won a couple fights in 96 and one in 98 by disqualification. And then he lost against Brian Nielsen in Nielsen's 47th professional fight later in 1992. He lost against Eric Esch in June of 1999 by first-round knockout. He took on a couple other guys, won by first-round knockout by 1999. And then in June of 2000, he won his 25th first-round knockout, which was his last win. He lost against Henry Akewande for the WBC International Heavyweight title in March of 2003 by second-round KO. And an unknown guy for the WBF World Heavyweight title named Mike Bernardo successfully defended his belt in June of 2001 when he defeated Peter McNeely in 41 seconds of the first round, which also cemented Peter McNeely retired after this fight, with Mike Bernardo ending his career with 11 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. The loss and draw were against nobodies, but the guy ended his boxing career with a WBF World Heavyweight Championship with a bang, taking on Peter McNeely. As for Mike Tyson, on the other hand, Mike Tyson would go on to, like I said before, he would take on other fighters, just like Buster Mathis Jr., the father that had to take on Joe Frazier back in the day, like his father Sr., defeated Buster Mathis Jr., defeated Frank Bruno in a controversial standard and a controversial win against Bruce Seldon in September when he won the WBA belt by faking a fight. And everything else with Holyfield and the ear bite and the other fights, well, yeah, that's a whole story for another time, guys. That's all I can say. So, yeah, everything else about this is pretty crazy when you look at it. But as for the fight itself, I will say, though, there's not a lot of history about this, but it's pretty fun. So, yeah, what's my final thought to say about this? Mike Tyson put in an interesting work of competition here. Don King sure did an interesting job working on Mike Tyson in this show. And I'll be honest, I enjoyed it for what it was. It was pretty fun and it was pretty ridiculous. So what else can you say about that? But anyway, guys, that's all I have to say for this entire show. Thank you, viewers, for watching the GLOAT podcast. But yes, guys, on May the 2nd, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to miss out, ladies and gentlemen, on May the 2nd. As we said before, guys, May the 3rd, May the 4th, and May the 2nd, we have a lot of fights today, ladies and gentlemen, that are going to happen. We have great fights with Jesse the Bam Rodriguez. We have great fights with a lot of them from Naoya Inoue to Canelo Alvarez. There's a lot of fights that are going to happen this first week of May, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I have to say about this. So thank you, viewers, for watching this episode. And the GLOAT podcast says, see ya next time.